How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Luka Modrić. The elite Croatian midfielder for Real Madrid turns 36 today, and my intent with this elite individual profile is to shed light on his accomplishments and his achievements, just to show what kind of impactful player Luka Modrić has been in the world of soccer since he first arrived at Dynamo Zagreb. To his transition to making it on the Croatian national team in 2006, all the way to where he is now, as he is the only player in the 2010s decade that wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi that won the Ballon d'Or. But just to give a little bit of background, just to look into the type of player that he is, just to describe him as a midfielder, just if you don't understand the midfielder position in soccer, they're in between the defenders and the attackers, which means they can do a lot of everything. Of course, they are the line of defense before defenders, and I think Luka Modrić is a very good defender for how good he is and how much people don't talk about his defense. Of course, he can pass up to the front. Probably one of the best passers in all of the world. Great dribbler. And of course, he can shoot. He's had some long shots in his career that have just rendered people speechless. And he virtually has it all. And it showed in his effort to try to get Croatia all the way to the final in the 2018 World Cup, which is what won him the Ballon d'Or. And it's just shown even when he was the midfielder for one of the most dominant club runs in all of Champions League history. But without further ado, I'm just going to get into it. So he was originally born in Soviet Croatia and Yugoslavia in Zadar. And he would end up finding his way on the Dynamo Zagreb youth system to where he was promoted in 2003 when he was only 18 years old. And then starting from when he originally got there, he would not win the Croatian league until his third season there in 2005, 2006. Once he won that very first time in his third year as a starter, he would show the world that he was good enough to be placed on the Croatian national team against Argentina in March 2006. He did score his very first goal in a friendly match against Italy that early on. Following that season, Luka Modrić would compete with Croatia at the World Cup, and when he competed with them at the World Cup in 2006, they wouldn't even make it past the first round. They wouldn't make it through knockout stage. They lost to Brazil in the first matchup. They drew versus Japan in the second matchup, and they drew versus Australia in the third matchup because they only had 2 points. They were not able to make it through. Following that season, Luka Modrić would return back at Dynamo Zagreb, and in his second season there, he would go on to win the Croatian League and the Croatian Cup. This is the first time that he would actually win the Croatian Cup, so he would start to amass trophies in that department. And of course, he would go on to establish himself as the Zagreb Player of the Year in 06-07. And he was also the Croatian Player of the Year after he was the young player that represented them in the Nations Cup. Following that year, he would go on to play his last of his 5 senior seasons at Dynamo Zagreb in his age 21 season in 2007-2008. In his 25 starts with Dynamo Zagreb, he would finish with 13 goals and 11 assists. He would never put up that many goals or assists in the domestic league virtually ever again, but he would establish himself as a good enough player at Zagreb at that young of an age that following his tenure in Zagreb, he would eventually get transferred to Tottenham, and he would have to deal with Tottenham while they were kind of in a struggling stage. By the time he had gotten to Tottenham, the last time they had at least finished top 3 in the Premier League was 1990. Prior to this, the last time they won it was 1961. So this is the team that he walked into in his very first season in Tottenham. This would be 2008, 2009. But following him actually playing there, he would go on to play in the he would go on to play in the 2008 Euros, and once they qualified for it, they would end up being top of the table over Germany in their group stage. Luka Modrić would score the penalty kick in the very first matchup of the group stage versus Austria. They would end up beating Germany 2-1, and then they would end up beating Poland 1-0 to make it to the knockout stage. Once they made it to the knockout stage, they would end up losing 1-1 to Turkey, as Luka Modrić actually ended up missing his penalty kick in this matchup, which would have helped them move on. But following their exit from the Euros, Luka Modrić would go on to play in his 4 seasons with Tottenham in the Premier League. In 2008-2009, in his age 22 season, he would go on to start all 34 of the games. He would play for a Tottenham team that would finish 8th in the league. They finished 11th the year before, so they were just slightly moving up. They would finish runners-up in the League Cup final, but they would not go on to win a trophy in that first year there. Luka Modrić would finish with 3 goals and 8 assists, as that was the second most amount of games that he would go on to play in a Tottenham uniform. Following that season, he would play his age 23 season in 2009-2010 with Tottenham. He would start 21 of the 25 games he played. He finished with 3 goals and 3 assists in the Premier League, as he would help Tottenham qualify for Champions League for the first time since 1991, honestly. So he was able to help Tottenham break that Champions League drought. And at the end of the season, or I guess following that season, he would go on to see Croatia miss the 2010 World Cup. But he would follow that up playing for Tottenham in his 3rd season there. In his 2010-2011 season, his age 24 season, he would start all 32 of the games that he would play for a Tottenham team that would end up finishing 5th in the Premier League, but they would go on to they would go on to play 9 games in the Champions League. Once they made it to Champions League this season, they wouldn't make it incredibly far. But following this season, Luka Modrić would finish with a goal and an assist in the Champions League matches that they played. And at the conclusion of that season, he would come back to what would be his final season for Tottenham. In his age 25 season, his 4th season in the Premier League in 2011-2012, he would start all 36 of the games he would play for a Tottenham team that would finish 4th in the Premier League yet again. The second time in that 30-year span in which they would make it to they would clinch a Champions League spot. Luka Modrić is very instrumental in that. He would finish with 4 goals and 4 assists in the 4 goals and 5 assists in the 36 Champions League matches he played. Not to mention, he also scored a goal in the 2 Europa League games he played before Tottenham would eventually get knocked out. But following that 2011-2012 season, Luka Modrić would compete with, or I guess in 2012, he would compete with Croatia at the Euros. Once they made it to the Euros, they would not make it through the group stage, as they only had 4 points. They would win their first game against the Republic of Ireland 3-1. They would draw with Italy in the second matchup 1-1, and then they would lose to Spain in a very important matchup in which Spain took Croatia's spot, and then Croatia would get knocked out from there. Following Croatia's exit from the 2012 Euros tournament, Luka Modrić would go on to play his very first season with Real Madrid, the team that would really change the way we look at his career. The team that he currently plays for, in the first of what is now 10 seasons with Real Madrid. He would start 25 of the 33 matchups he would play in a season where Real Madrid would go on to finish with the second best record in La Liga. They would finish as the runners-up in the Copa del Rey, but as soon as they got there, they would go on to win the Supercopa de España. That would be the only trophy that Luka Modrić would win in his very first season in Real Madrid, but coming to play for this team would actually serve very instrumental. This would be a couple of years after Ronaldo had signed with Real Madrid after leaving Manchester United. Following Luka Modric's first season, he would go on to play. He would start 29 of the 34 La Liga games. He would play for Real Madrid in 2014, when Real Madrid would go on to finish third in La Liga. Regardless, they would go on to win the Copa del Rey for the first time since Luka Modric was there, and they would go on to win Champions League. They would go on to be the champions of Europe after they ended up beating Atletico Madrid 4-1 in that final. And of course, looking out to how that game fared out for both sides. It would see, of course, Ronaldo scoring, and then Real Madrid would score 3 goals in extra time. That would see them beating Atletico Madrid, and that would be one of the biggest trophy in Luka Modric's closet. But that would be the first time he won Champions League. In his following the season in which he won Champions League with Real Madrid for the very first time, he would go on to compete with Croatia at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. They wouldn't make it out of the group stage in Brazil either, as they fell short of Brazil and Mexico. That was the group that they were in. In their first matchup, they lost to Brazil 3-1. In their second matchup, they ended up beating Cameroon 4-0, and then they lost 3-1 to Mexico in what would be a knockout game, a very important game for both sides. But Mexico, I guess, wanted it more. Following their early World Cup exit, Luka Modric would go on to compete with Real Madrid, and will be his third season there in 2014-2015. In his age 28 season, he would only start 16 of the games that he would play, as he was dealing with injury. But in 2014-15, Real Madrid would finish runners-up in La Liga. They would finish in the round of 16 in Copa del Rey and lose in the semifinals of Champions League. But they would go on to win the UEFA Super Cup following Champions League, and then they also won the FIFA Club World Cup after they won the Super Cup. But that was just going into the season, so of course those are a couple more trophies added to Luka Modric's case. Following the 2014, and then also within those 16 games, he will go on to finish with a goal and 3 assists. So, he had less assists than he did the previous year. We had 6 assists in La Liga. And of course, continuing on, you get to see what Luka Modric was doing. Following that, he would go on to play with Real Madrid for his 4th season there in 2015-2016. In that season, he would start 31 of the 32 games he would play for a Real Madrid team that would finish second as the runners-up in La Liga yet again. They would end up losing in the round of 32 of the Copa del Rey. But start looking at La Liga first. In the 32 matches he played, he finished with 2 goals and 4 assists. And then in Champions League, he would end up helping Real Madrid go all the way to the end, where they would end up beating Atletico Madrid yet again. This matchup would end up going 1-1 as Ramos would score the only goal for Real Madrid. It would end up going to penalty kicks where Real Madrid would end up beating Atletico Madrid, and that is how Real Madrid would take their second Champions League win in a 3-year span. And of course, the year they didn't win was when Luka Modric and others were seriously hurt. But looking into this season itself, Luka Modric in Champions League would finish with a goal and an assist as he would go on to help Real Madrid take on yet another title, and Real Madrid help them increase their lead over AC Milan in Champions League wins. And also following that 2015-16 season, Luka Modric would go on to compete with Croatia at the Euros in 2016. They would go on to make it out of their group stage, finishing atop Spain, Turkey, and the Czech Republic. In the first matchup, Croatia would beat Turkey 1-0, as Luka Modric would score the only goal in that game. In the second matchup, they ended up drawing against the Czech Republic. That game was 2-2. And then Croatia would end up beating Spain 2-1 to make it out of group stage. Once they made it to the knockout stage, they ended up losing in extra time to Portugal, who ended up winning the entire thing. But following the 2016 Euros, He would go on to compete with Real Madrid for what would be his fifth season in La Liga. He would start 25 of the 22 games he would play in La Liga in a season where Real Madrid would win for the very first time since he gotten there. The last time that they had won was the year before Luka Modrić got there. In addition to winning La Liga, in that La Liga season itself, Luka Modrić would finish with a goal and 2 assists. They would go on to, or Real Madrid would go on to finish or lose in the quarterfinals of the Copa de España. In the Copa del Rey, he would go on to play 2 goals in that matchup. And they would go on to win the Champions League yet again. And this was following their last Champions League win. They won the Super Cup and the FIFA Club World Cup. And then in 2017, they would win their third Champions League final in a 4-year span, which of course cemented this Galacticos season, or this era. They will go down as the Galacticos for how much farther out into space they were compared to other teams, because Luka Modrić is one of the players that was holding it down, especially at midfield. Following the 2016-17 season, he would go and compete with Real Madrid as they won yet another Super Cup and they won another FIFA Club World Cup. And this would be the third FIFA Club World Cup and the third UEFA Super Cup that they had won since Luka Modrić had joined the team. Following the 2016-17 season, he would come back to Real Madrid for his age 31 season and what would be his 6th season with the club. In his 6th season in La Liga, he would go on to start 23 of the 26 games for a Real Madrid team that would go on to finish 3rd in La Liga. They would lose in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey. However, they would go on to win Champions League for the 4th time in a 5-year span. This time, they would end up beating Liverpool, as the previous year they ended up beating Juventus. So this would be the last Champions League title that Real Madrid has won to date. This is the 4th in a 5-year span. Remember, in 2014, they ended up and in 2016, they beat Atletico both those years. 2017, they beat Juventus. 2018, they beat Liverpool. And also this year, within their respective leagues, in La Liga, Modrić had a goal and 6 assists. In the Champions League run, in which they won their 4th, he would finish with a goal and an assist. And following this win, this would be when Cristiano Ronaldo left Real Madrid to join Juventus. And following that offseason in which they lost a lot of their scoring, they would end up finishing as the runners-up in the Super Cup, but they did end up winning the FIFA Club World Cup this year. This is the last time that they have played in both those titles and the last time they have won the FIFA Club World Cup to date. But following the 2017-2018 season, Luka Modrić would go on to compete with Croatia at the World Cup in the performance that would virtually cement him as the Ballon d'Or for the 2018 year. Following a season where he helped Real Madrid win yet another World Cup or another Champions League final, he will go on to help Croatia finish on top of their table over Argentina, Nigeria, and Iceland. They would end up beating Nigeria in their first matchup 2-0. Luka Modrić would score their second goal off a penalty. In the second matchup, they would end up beating Argentina 3-0 as Modrić would score the second goal there. They would end up beating Iceland in the third game 2-0 so that they would sweep the group stage and advance to knockouts. In the round of 16, they would end up drawing with Denmark and then going into penalty kicks. Luka Modrić would make his, and then Croatia would make it to the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, Croatia faced off against Russia, and in this matchup, it ended up going into penalties where Croatia would beat Russia. Luka Modrić would make a penalty kick in that matchup as well. In the semifinals, Croatia would end up beating England to send them to the finals, where they would end up falling just short of France, as this would be the season where Paul Pogba, Griezmann, Mbappe, and Mandzukic, or I guess those three, and along with Mandzukic's own goal, would give France a very historic World Cup win and had Croatia finishing just short. Following the season, Luka Modrić would eventually be named the player of the tournament, and this would lead into the 2018-19 season. Halfway through the 2018-19 season, Luka Modrić was gifted the Ballon d'Or for the 2018 season, the only player that wasn't Ronaldo or Messi to do so. He was also named the UEFA Best Player in Europe, and he was also named the FIFA Men's Best Player in 2018. The only player other than Ronaldo and Messi to have done so since I would say 2010 has been Robert Lewandowski, and he most recently won it. So just to show just the level that Luka Modric was at as he was going into his age 32 season, and then going into his age 32 season and Real Madrid's first season without Ronaldo, he would go on to start 31 of the 34 games that he would play, and Real Madrid would go on, like I said, to finish third in La Liga. They lost in the semifinals of the Copa del Rey. They lost in the round of 16 in the Champions League. Following that FIFA Club World Cup, they did not win a trophy in 2018-2019. However, Luka Modric would go on to finish with 3 goals and 6 assists. That would be the most assists that Luka Modric would put up in at least La Liga up until that point. It would tie him with what he did his second season there. Additionally, Luka Modric was able to finish with an assist in Champions League as they fell out so quickly. Following the 2018-19 season, Luka Modric would return to what would be his age 33 season, and a season that many people are aware of was heavily impacted by the coronavirus vaccine or the coronavirus, and it would end up delaying the end of the season, pushing it back for a couple of months. But within the season, Luka Modric would end up starting 22 of the 31 games for a Real Madrid team that would win La Liga for the second time that he had been there, and for the first time since Ronaldo had left. In the La Liga season, Luka Modric would finish with 3 goals and 7 assists. The 7 assists are the most assists that he's ever had in a season, and the 3 goals and 7 assists combining for 10 scoring plays in the entire season with Real Madrid. That's the most that he's ever had in a season to date. And he would go on to help Real Madrid finish in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey. In the Copa del Rey, he would go on to he would only play 1 game in that series. He would play 6 games in a Champions League bout. That would see them finish in the round of 16. However, with their Super Copa de España win, they were able to take a couple of trophies home as Karim Benzema was the leading scorer for the second year in a row. Following this 2019-2020 season, Luka Modric would go on to start 32 of the 35 games that he would play for Real Madrid in La Liga in a season where they would go on to finish second in the league to Atletico Madrid. In this season, he would finish with 5 goals and 3 assists. The 5 goals is the most goals he's ever scored in a La Liga season. Additionally, Real Madrid would go on to finish in the round of 32 in the Copa del Rey, and they lost in the semifinals of the Champions League as they fell just short to Manchester City. And they would end up losing in the semifinals of the Super Copa de España as they did not end up winning a trophy this most recent season. But following the 2020 and 2021 season, in which they were unable to pull away with a trophy, like I said, Luka Modric was able to help them he was able to help Croatia try to make it through the Euros that were played in 2021 rather than 2020. He would make it out of the group stage with 4 points in the table, just below England and just tied with the Czech Republic. They would lose in their first matchup with England 1-0. They would end up drawing with the Czech Republic 1-1, and then Croatia would end up beating Scotland in the third matchup 3-1 as Luka Modric scored the second goal in the 62nd minute. In the knockout phase, they would end up losing to Spain in extra time as Spain scored twice. And following this matchup, Luka Modric would find himself right now, or where he is right now, competing with Real Madrid in what is now his age 35 season, where he just most recently turned 36. Thus far this season, he's only started 2 games for Real Madrid, and he already has an assist thus far. And this just shows the type of player that Luka Modric is, and he's just coming off some virtuoso seasons where he is in prime position to help Real Madrid compete to be one of the best teams in all of Spain, let alone, not to mention, all of Europe this season. And I just can't wait to see what Luka Modrić does this season. Just to look at this player as knowing that this player at his best was seen as at least the best player in the entire world, and I don't think that can be discounted. Considering how many soccer players there are in the world, for this guy to be this consistent and for this guy to be entering his 10th season playing center mid for Real Madrid, this guy is definitely the cream of the crop. And with that said, I hope everyone really got a chance to get an understanding of why Luka Modrić is one of the best in the world. Once again, I want to thank the Football Reference, Transfer Market, Footy Stats, all the FIFA La Liga websites for giving me what I needed for the stats and figures. I want to thank everyone for listening to all 25 minutes of this piece, and I want to wish Luka Modrić a happy 36th birthday. I hope all is well, and if you ever get a chance to watch him, he's wearing number 10 for both Real Madrid and Croatia, if you didn't even know how iconic of a player he was. He's rocking the Croatia captain band. I'm not sure if he's a captain for Real Madrid, but I just gotta tip my hat to Luka Modrić because he is one of the best players that I've ever seen, and hopefully I'll have more to talk about by this time next year. Thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well. Once again, today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021. I'm James Sims. This is The Elite. Thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and peace out. I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow.